Imagine a world with no alphabet, no laws, no cities, and no math. Now picture a time so ancient, it almost feels like a legend. A time when humans were just learning to shape the world into what we'd call civilization. Welcome to Mesopotamia, the birthplace of almost everything we know about society, innovation, and order. But this ancient land, it holds secrets way darker, stranger, and more groundbreaking than you'd expect. Stick around, because by the end, you might start to wonder just how much of our modern life was crafted thousands of years ago in this mysterious cradle of civilization. So, Mesopotamia. This place was set between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in what we now call Iraq. It's often known as the land between the rivers, and it was one of the very first places where human culture really took off. We're talking around 4000 BCE, when people in this region shifted from being hunters and gatherers to becoming settled farmers. But it wasn't just fertile soil that made Mesopotamia thrive. It was how people learned to adapt, innovate, and take control of their surroundings. As the climate started warming up, early Mesopotamians figured out how to channel river water to their crops. That sparked a huge agricultural revolution. With more food than they needed, people finally had time for things beyond just survival. They began creating art, setting up rules, and building actual cities. But here's what's really interesting. Mesopotamia wasn't just one single culture. It was like a blend of languages and ideas, with different groups sometimes clashing, sometimes working together, creating the first real complex societies. The Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians, all of them left a mark that would echo through history. One of the most game-changing inventions in Mesopotamia was writing. Just think about it. A time when all knowledge, memories, and agreements had to be spoken aloud. Writing changed that forever. Around 3200 BCE, the Sumerians created what we call cuneiform, using wedge-shaped symbols pressed into clay tablets. What started as a way to record crops and taxes eventually became a medium for literature, laws, and even poetry. Imagine the power that gave to the few who knew how to read and write. They could preserve and shape information, laying the foundation for things like libraries, schools, and legal systems. And here's the amazing part. Many of those cuneiform tablets have survived to this day. They give us a direct view into their world, showing us everything from business deals to epic stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest tales of heroism, friendship, and the quest for immortality. Now, if you think Mesopotamia was some lawless place, think again. One of its most famous leaders, King Hammurabi of Babylon, created one of history's first legal codes around 1754 BCE. The Code of Hammurabi wasn't just a bunch of rules. It was a full-on plan for how society should run, setting standards for generations. This code, which was carved on a massive stone pillar, had 282 laws covering everything from property rights to criminal justice. Ever heard of an eye for an eye? That's where it comes from, showing us that the Mesopotamians didn't just tolerate crime. They were determined to control it. Punishments could be harsh by today's standards, mutilation, even death. But they aimed to keep peace in a society where survival really depended on stability. Imagine living under such strict rules. Knowing that a single mistake could cost you your life or limb must have created a lot of fear. Yet these laws also protected the vulnerable, setting standards that influenced legal codes for thousands of years. But what about everyday life? What did people look like, wear, and do? Well, clothing was usually practical, often made from wool or linen, and sometimes even colorful if they could afford dyes. Men wore skirts and tunics, while women wore long robes or draped dresses. Jewelry was big too, even for people who weren't super wealthy. It wasn't just about looking good. They believed jewelry could protect them from evil spirits. Their homes were small, made from sun-dried mud bricks, with different areas for sleeping, cooking, and socializing. Life revolved around family, religious rituals, and work, with music and games as occasional escapes. Religion was everywhere. Massive ziggurats, pyramid-like temples, towered over the cities where priests would perform rituals to please the gods. People lived in constant fear of angering these deities. If things went wrong, like illness or a bad harvest, they believed it was because the gods were angry, so they made regular offerings and prayers. Beyond daily life, Mesopotamia was also a place of learning, especially in mathematics and astronomy. They created a base 60 system. Yes, that's why we divide time into 60 seconds and 360 degrees in a circle. And they weren't just stargazing for fun. They used the stars to figure out when to plant crops, creating one of the first calendars. Their architecture was pretty advanced too. Cities like Ur and Babylon were full of canals, temples, and homes, built to last in harmony with the land. Some cities even had paved streets, which was a huge deal in those times. Now here's the twist that might really get you thinking. Almost everything we rely on today, timekeeping, law, writing, city planning, started in this ancient civilization that was around thousands of years ago. Yet as quickly as Mesopotamia rose, it also fell. Constant invasions, environmental changes, and conflicts eventually led to its decline. But Mesopotamia didn't just disappear. Its legacy lives on in so many subtle ways. When you look at a clock, read a contract, or walk through a city, you're experiencing the influence of Mesopotamia. So think about that. If all of this was created so long ago, what other secrets might still be buried, waiting to be uncovered?